What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. We're out in the woods today. Obviously I needed to get out and just blast around on my four-wheeler for a while and clear my head and think about everything that I've learned in the past, I don't know, all my life, 47 years, right? And sometimes it's good to do that, look inward, know thyself, all those sorts of things. But you also have to know your enemy. You have to know your enemy, and that's what we kind of talked about on the last video. So this is kind of a continuation of that last video because I didn't want to unload everything all at once. That'd be too much for most people. So I wanted to kind of spread this out over multiple videos because let's face it, I don't know if you guys feel the same way I do, but every day when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think is, how can I fight the New World Order? How can I fight back against this and, send out a message of, pro-human, pro-humanity. I find it very fascinating that almost everything the UN or the WEF or the NWO, for a lack of a better phrase, for all of these people that are trying to take over the world, I find it evil, pure evil. Satanism also operates the same way that the New World Order operates. God instructs us to go out, be fruitful, reproduce, multiply, all this stuff, right? Well, what is the UN and the WEF doing right now? They're telling you have less kids. They're telling you that if you read their own words, by 2037, there will be 0 human beings being born naturally in a mother's womb like it's always been done. They've got this plan, and I showed you guys, 6 or 8 months ago, a headline about how they just come up with these new artificial wombs and stuff over in England. So every single thing that's instructed to us in the Bible, the UN is on the opposite side of that, right? So God says he made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, not Adam and Dylan Mulvaney, right? You get what you smell when I'm stepping in? I got to be careful about that one because YouTube, that's a highly protected class here on YouTube. And if you go too far, they'll say you're, using hate speech or something like that to go after these people. And that's not where, where my position comes from. My position is a position of love for humanity and wanting to see humanity continue on long after I'm gone, right? But they actually have a plan, an agenda to reduce the population of the world by 90%. And I find it very, very fascinating, or, maybe it's divine intervention. I don't know. But when I was on my way over here to the property, I thought, hey, I'll click on YouTube and turn on a YouTube stream while I'm driving and listen to that. And I couldn't believe this, but this is the second or third time I've seen this on a website or a YouTube channel called The London Reel. Go check them out. They're live streaming Alex Jones's videos. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, this is the first time I've seen an uninterrupted, no commercials, at least on my end. I didn't get any commercial breaks or anything. It was a live stream from Alex Jones's show, and also you can go check it out on band.video. But when I've put clips up in the past featuring Alex Jones, they have banned my video immediately because he's basically been depersoned. He's persona non grata here on YouTube. You're not allowed to really praise his work or talk about how all the times he was actually right when, 20 years ago, a lot of the shit he was saying sounded batshit crazy. But when you look at it and how it's played out and how nearly everything Alex Jones has predicted, and others, it ain't just Alex Jones. There were so many others. I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote the book, Behold a Pale Horse. That guy ended up getting murdered under weird, suspicious circumstances. Most people that speak up and have a big reach end up being, deleted from the game, basically. So, and they usually die of suspicious circumstances. And anytime a big stack of records can be put in a certain place right before, let's say the Twin Towers falls, or right before Oklahoma City, well, they can suddenly get rid of all the evidence against them, and they're doing all this stuff by design. So anyway, back to what I was saying. The UN, the WEF, the WHO, all these other globalist organizations that are hell-bent on taking away our liberty and our freedom and our families, man. I mean, it's one thing to try to, upset the apple cart here in the United States of America. Maybe somebody actually comes up with a better idea, a better form of government one day, but so far I haven't seen it, especially when everything the UN and the WEF are proposing are based on a dictatorial type, tyrannical type government, and I'm not for that. In fact, the founding fathers warned us heavily about, not letting our guard down, or, what Ben Franklin famously said, a republic if you can keep it. That's what our founding fathers, tried to warn us about. We had to look out for these tyrants that were coming in and wanting to take control of everything, every single thing, down to the level of your bedroom. And anyway, I got kind of off topic here. I tend to do this when I don't have notes. I bounce all these ideas and I try to, pick the things that I think are best suited to make my case. My case is that the globalist agenda is, if not directly perpetrated by Lucifer or Satan himself, it is certainly being orchestrated, right? It's being controlled by Satan. And I gave the example of, there's no Adam and Steve, or no Adam and Dylan, right? Well, in other words, there's a man and a woman. That's how it's supposed to be. God made man, then he thought, man needed a partner, so he pulled one of his ribs, made Eve, not Steve. So, it clearly tells us in the Bible that, it's a man and a woman. And up till about 90 something, late 90s, I guess, there never was a question of what a man was or what a woman was or any of that sort of stuff. And now all of a sudden we have this gender bender society that's being, I hate to use the phrase, but it's the only phrase that describes it accurately, pushed down our throats. And not only our throats, our children's throats. More importantly for them is to get the minds of the children, capture them early and young, and turn them against the family unit. That's what they've been doing. That's what this whole public school facade is. It's a indoctrination to communism. And the best thing you could do if you're a parent, you've got young children, is homeschool your kids. Even if that means you have to lose half your income and live at a lower level, maybe go, get a smaller house, whatever you have to do, drive an old car that you work on rather than going out and buying a new car all the time, that kind of stuff, cut the cable, eat beans and bologna if you have to, but keep your kids out of public school, because that is the first stage of indoctrinating them. And then, of course, they go get a college education, and that further pushes them away from your family and your morals and Christianity and everything good about the United States of America, and into the trap of the communists. That the communists are standing there, the globalists are standing there with open arms for your kids. And they're saying, oh, yeah, see, you weren't treated fairly. Remember that time you used to like to play with Barbies? Well, that means you're a girl, and your parents didn't recognize that, so that's their fault you're all screwed up. So that's how they're turning this whole thing against the American family. And that's one of the biggest things that we have to bolster that up. We have to increase, or decrease divorces, and we have to work through our problems. If we're going to make a commitment to a partner, we got to find the right partner. So it's not just going out and finding the prettiest girl or whatever, that kind of stuff. There's more to it than that. It's about, what kind of moral character does that person have, right? I would argue, even more important than what they look like is what kind of moral character, what kind of background, what kind of upbringing did they have? What kind of indoctrination have they gone through? So I know, I was talking to somebody recently after my last video. A younger guy came in, and he was basically, telling me a message of hopelessness. He was telling me, that's fine for you. And he called me a boomer. I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer, but whatever. I'm not offended by that. Boomers were a great generation. So to me, that's not an insult if that's the way he meant it. I don't know, but I don't take it that way. Anyway, that being said, I've got a lot of respect for boomers. Boomers paved the way and built this country to a large degree after World War II. And so I'll be forever grateful to them for doing all that, for all their sacrifices. But, these younger generations, they have this mindset that they can't do it. It can't be achieved. And see, the problem is, and I used to be guilty of this myself, you know, when I was young and just out of my mom and dad's house and, you know, just getting out into a crappy apartment, you know, and not really having anything that I owned myself. I had used furniture, you know, I had an old used car, but I loved that car and I kept it running good and all that. My 72 Monte Carlo, I drove that for years, still have it because I can't let go of it. But anyway, all that being said, you know, there was some resentment, some young, you know, I don't know where it came from. Maybe it just came from being a teenager, but, you know, I was angry that my family wasn't rich and wealthy. I was angry that I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And I look around at these other people that seem like they had everything, you know, and that's probably where this young man was coming from. He sees me and I'm talking about, oh yeah, I'm a land baron. I got my 100 acres here. I got my suburb house over here. I've got, you know, 4 or 5 Chevy pickup trucks, you know, 3 or 4 motorcycles, a 4-wheeler, on and on and on. And you see all these trappings that have taken me decades and decades and decades of hard work to achieve. Even this 4-wheeler that I'm sitting on right here, you know, when this thing was brand new, it was probably like 5 or, you know, maybe 6 grand or something for a utility 4-wheeler with a 500cc motor. But I didn't pay 5 grand for it. I paid $1,000 for it because it wasn't running when I bought it. So what people don't see is that because I'm a mechanic and I love projects like that, I love a mystery like that, figuring out what's wrong with something, that I go out and I buy these things dirt cheap. And yeah, they're great after I fix them, but before I fix them, they're only worth $1,000. So, I mean, that's one of the ways that if you want to have things as a young person, you can cheat the system like I did. That's what I've been trying to convey. That's the message I've been trying to convey to people is that, you know, get mechanical, learn a skill. You know, even if you're not an auto mechanic, learn how to, you know, do plumbing mechanics, learn how to do, you know, electrician work, whatever it is that's your knack, or electronics. You know how hard it is to get somebody to fix electronics these days because everything's disposable? That would be a place where, you know, you could probably make a lot of money fixing people's old, you know, stereo receivers or whatever it may be. You know, you may not get rich instantly, but it'll be a good job and you'll have lots of work because no one else is doing it. I mean, so you have to think outside of the box if you're a young person. I get it. You feel like the whole world is stacked against you. You know, he did make some good points. The economy is shit right now. And that's true. The economy is shit. You know what that's meant for me? It's meant that I can't do the things that I want to do over here on this 100 acres, basically. It makes it to where when I think about brush hogging, I'm like, oh man, that's going to be a lot of diesel fuel. How much is diesel fuel right now? You know, how much wear and tear is that going to be on my tractor? You know, there was a time during the COVID, you couldn't get any parts for any of these foreign imported tractors, and they're all imported, made with imported parts. So in a way, he's right on some level. You are up a creek, but so am I. And so was I when I was 19 years old, you know, and just out of high school, just out of my mom and dad's house. You know, I had some VOTEC training, but I didn't have proper college education. So, you know, and I'm glad. I think that's part of the reason that I still have a level head. I didn't get my mind filled up with a bunch of gobbledygook that means nothing. It sounds good. It's virtue signaling. That's what one of the things that bothers me the most is seeing these people that constantly virtue signal. But the whole reason I'm making this video, other than my continued fight against the New World Order and informing people and telling them, look, they're coming for your children. They even say it, man. They said, what was the last one? We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. They tried to pretend like that was a small group of people. Bullshit. I saw the video. There were multiple people chanting that. If it had been one person, I might have been like, okay, that's an outlier. That's probably not the whole group that feels that way. But no one was horrified. No one was like, oh, no, that's not me. I'm getting out of this group. No, they're all in this together. They are coming for your children. What, 8 months ago now, a year ago now, that San Francisco gay choir did the whole song where one of the chorus lines of the song is, we're coming for your children. And then they tried to act like they were just fucking playing. Well, guess what? If you remember the movie Tombstone, great movie. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, I can't remember who else is in it. But at one point, Val Kilmer and Johnny Ringo was the bad guy. You know, he was the guy that was causing all the problems. He was the best gun, you know, slinger on the side of the cowboys, right? Which was the opposite side, the bad guys. Basically, he's talking crap to Doc Holliday. And I think it's during the scene where they're inside the casino. But anyway, he's talking crap to Doc Holliday. And suddenly he goes, well, I was just kidding you or something like that. I was just joshing you or something along those lines. And Holiday, dead serious, deadpan, looks at him and goes, I wasn't. And that's the way I feel about all this crap. Okay, you're just joking, San Francisco Choir? I wasn't joking. I take the children of America and our future very, very seriously. That's a place that you can't go. You can't go there. It's inappropriate, even if it was originally intended as a joke. It's inappropriate. And it's not only inappropriate, it strikes too close to home because they are coming for your children. It's all written down in the New World Order, Agenda 2030, Agenda 21, WEF, Great Reset, Build Back Better, garbage that they're trying to push down the throats of every American. And what really bothers me, guys, and the reason that I feel compelled to make videos like this is that our fellow countrymen are letting it all slide. And I can't do that. I don't have the ability, the capability to let direct immoral actions taken towards, people that can't, they're not even legal adults yet. They can't give consent because they don't have consent to give. I can't take it. I can't take it when I'm seeing this going on around the world. And maybe that's because I'm a parent and I have a daughter. I don't know exactly why that is, but when I see my nieces and nephews and, my cousins and their kids and hopefully one day I'll have grandkids. Hopefully my daughter and her, right now it's just a boyfriend, but hopefully they'll get married one day and have a family. That's what I want for them more than anything else. Because at the end of the day, you can't count on government. You can't count on the economy. You can't count on the US dollar. You can't even count on the boundaries of your own property that you own. You can't count on not having your property taken away from you by a greedy state government that's taxing you to death on your property. You can't count on any of that stuff. But here's one thing you should be able to count on, and that's your family and your really close friends. And, I don't know if it's just a symptom of getting older. I'm 47 years old now. I don't know if that's what it is, but basically, over the years, I started out with, dozens of friends back in the day, out of high school, and, I'd make friends real easy back in the day. And now I'm down to basically 2, excluding people that are in my family that I also consider friends of mine. I treat them like a friend type relationship. We talk about these sorts of things, things that you're not supposed to talk about for some reason. Well, I disagree, and I say that's part of the problem. This stuff is evil, and good people have to stand up against it, or else they will win. I mentioned in my last video the easiest thing to do is say no to all this stuff, and that's a big part of it. But the other part of it is you have to know what their plan is so you can know what to say no to, right? So do your own research on that. I'm not gonna walk you through all that stuff, but if you want to be walked through it, go watch the London Reel, the Alex Jones broadcast today. If you can't find it on YouTube, go to band.video and watch Alex Jones's show from today, where he had a doctor on, and forgive me, I can't remember her name, but he had this doctor on, very highly intelligent woman, who has been, for as far as I can tell, she's been right about everything, just like Alex Jones. And I can't remember the name of her organization or her name, but if I can find it when I get home and do the editing, I'll put it right here so you guys can go do more research on this video. This woman broke down the entire plan of the UN, the one world government, and how they're planning to come in, take away parental rights, turn your children into androgynous beings that have no sex and no gender and, whatever, or are totally confused about what gender they are and stuff like this. It's all in their plans. And this woman laid it out brilliantly. I'm not even going to attempt to do that today because she had pages after pages after pages of notes from their own mouths, from their own websites, from their own quotes. I mean, who is this? It's the Rockefellers, it's the Rothschilds, it's Klaus Schwab's, it's Bill Gates, it's Joe Biden, it's Barack Obama, it's Hillary Clinton. It's probably Chuck Schumer, it's probably Mitch McConnell, it's probably Mitt Romney, it's probably a lot of these guys. John McCain, of course, he's dead now. It's probably Victoria Nuland. It's probably a lot more people. Kamala Harris. We could go on and on and on and on. For whatever reason, the Democrat Party has aligned with the New World Order. The one party who is kind of standing against it is the Republicans, but even then, I don't like to say the Republicans. It's really only the conservatives that are still standing up for smaller government, less world government and stuff like this. Everybody else, even many of the rhinos, are pushing for one world government. And I don't know if they're getting their pockets lined or what their motivations are exactly, but it's scary, guys. They're coming. Not only are they coming, they're already here. The enemy is already beyond the gates. They're not at the gates. They're beyond the gates. They're inside. They've infiltrated our system. And you have to use your discernment and go out and do your own research and figure out who these people are, who they are in your local community, and how to get them out of office. If you have to run against them, do that. Take back your local communities first. That's probably the best way we can fight back against this globalism. But even then, your local people that, your city councils and your mayors and stuff like that, they have to know about this stuff. And you're going to have to take the risk of sounding like a kook and saying all these things that I'm saying. You're going to have to take the risk. Now, if you're going to do that, do it better than I'm doing it. Don't just spitball it off the top of your head like we're doing right here. Go out and actually take notes and inform these people. Go in and say, hey, have you seen this certain, Section A, Chapter 2 or whatever of the New World Order's Agenda 2030? Have you seen this? Do you realize that they say it in black and white right here, that they're trying to muddy the waters of gender and gender ideology and all this other stuff that they've got? They've got all these acronyms for all these different things and these programs that they're implementing right now in your kid's school. So what we talked about in the last video was becoming more self-reliant and stuff like that. And that includes homeschooling your children, keeping them away from the evil. That's the way you need to look at public school. It's Satan's lair. It's preschool for, Satanism. Anti-family, anti-human, pro-eugenicist, population control. That's one of the biggest things that this lady said toward the end of the broadcast. She talked about how by 2037, they want to reduce, the UN, because people get pissed when you say they. So I'm going to just explain it every time. The UN, the WEF, people like Joe Biden and other Democrats here in the United States and some rhinos, they want to reduce the population. They have an agreement. They want to reduce the population by 90%. 90%. That means most of us, probably me and you and all the people watching, won't be here anymore. How would they achieve that? Could they achieve that through, mass forced vaccination? Sure they could. Am I saying that's what they did? No, not necessarily, but it might have been a trial run. And you can do your own research on that. I mean, a lot of stuff happened, and we're not allowed to talk about that stuff, so I have to move on. I mean, could it be, getting rid of guns and banning guns and making it to where it's going to be a lot easier for the, world government to come in and take away your rights? I think that's a big part of it, yeah. Yeah, that's it. All this stuff they're pushing and promoting. On one hand, it's failing, like Bud Light's ad campaign, the latest thing with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, on and on, Little Mermaid, all these things where they're changing everything. They're changing everything from our past into this wokeism. And it's a cancer on our society. And they know it is. They're doing it intentionally. They're using one of the oldest plays in the book, divide and conquer. It's really no different than what Marx talked about. You've got the bourgeoisie, the upper elites, and they would say I am, because I own land, and even though I'm not a rich guy, don't kid yourself, I'm not a rich guy. I've been smart with my money. That's why I have stuff like this, and I have 100 acres and things like that. My wife and I, we bought our house young. And that was one of the smartest decisions we ever made, because instead of throwing money away on rent every month, when we sold our first house, we got to keep the equity off of that. The money that we made off of that we didn't owe the bank, we got the difference, right? And we were able to put that towards our suburb house, which was the only way we were able to afford that. So I didn't live in the Taj Mahal in my first house out of my mom and dad's house. First I lived in an apartment with my wife, and then we had a baby, and we were getting broken into at the apartments. Our cars were getting broken into all the time. Our neighbors were screwing so loud that, you know, they'd bang the headboard on the wall. I don't know if they were trying to make a show of it or what, but I mean, it sounded like they were making pornos over there in the next apartment over. So I couldn't raise a kid in that environment. So what did I do? I looked to the country. I was like, you know what, even if it's a small house, a starter home, I'm going to buy a house with some land. And we were able to get 1 acre of land. It wasn't the best acre. It was real long and narrow, and the house sat at the very back. But that was kind of good because the house was way off the road. You know, I was able to raise my kid there for a good part of her life. And then we bought our suburb house, and we sold that other house, you know, and made out really like bandits. It was like we lived there rent-free all those years, even though, you know, at the time we were having to dole out that money. It's just one of those things. I can't recommend that enough to younger people. As soon as you're able, go buy property, go buy a house, whatever you can do to better your situation, because it's always better when you own versus renting. At least that's been my experience. There are certain things, you know, if you need a tool for a one-time application like a stump grinder, then yeah, go rent that or whatever. But otherwise, you need a house, you need property. It's one of the major expenses of living a life. So I would advise anybody that's listening, you know, get married young to the right person, buy a house young, buy the right house, you know, check it out, make sure you're getting a good deal and not getting screwed. But my wife and I, you know, I'm proud to say we bought our first house when I was 19 years old. She's 1 year older than me, so she was 20, but I was 19. And all those realtors were looking at us like we were just batshit crazy. They were like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, we're buying a house. That's what we're doing. And we did. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So that's why I'm able to be where I am now. Hopefully that makes sense to more people. But, you know, I'm not saying any of this stuff's going to be instant. You have to work for anything that you want to do in this life. It's not going to be handed to you. And for whatever reason, a lot of these younger people, they feel like they're owed something, you know, like society owes them something. And the best thing, my best advice I could give younger people is get that out of your mind. Nobody owes you anything. You're going to have to make everything on your own. You're going to have to be independent. You're going to have to fix your own machines if you want to have those kinds of machines, right? You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to not do some of the things that all your buddies are doing. All your buddies are going out and buying brand new Chevy trucks or Ford trucks or whatever, and you're still driving an old, you know, 96 or 98 truck or whatever. That's good. That's good. You know, it may be nice to ride around and smell that new interior and stuff, but what you're not having to deal with is those steep car payments and those other problems that come along with having a new truck that looks tough, that's actually a real flimsy piece of crap. It's unauthentic. It's not real anymore. It's not a real truck anymore. So keep your old truck. Work on that. You'll be better off. Trust me. Oh, man. It's just so many things, guys. This thing is pure evil. That's what I wanted to say. The woman that did the interview with Alex Jones, the doctor, it was one of the best breakdowns of the entire system. It went back and had dates from like 1975, which is when I was born, all the way until today, of the plans that these people have. Every single time you hear about another Davos meeting or a Bilderberg meeting or a, you know, whatever, what's the one? I never can remember it. Bohemian Grove or any of these other things that these weirdos are doing out there, just know they're not looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for theirs and their families. Because family's still important to them. They just don't want you to have a family. They call us useless eaters. And they're getting a little bit of use out of us for right now under the current system and the way it's structured. But in the end, they don't want us around anymore consuming their resources. 90% population reduction is what they're talking about. I have yet to do it, but one of these days I'm going to do a deep dive on something that really made me a believer. And I think I saw it in like 2018, if I'm not mistaken, but it was called the Deagle Report. And these government think tanks that basically predict how things are going to be in the future, they predicted like a 70 to 80% population reduction in all Western countries. And then suddenly they scrubbed it from the internet. You know, that's one of the ways you can tell if something is true or not, is when someone comes out and says something and then they get reprimanded by their higher ups and then they take it down. They try to scrub it off the internet. Well, luckily, some people screenshotted that before they took it down. So it's still out there. You can still go find the, I believe it was 2018 Deagle report, where they talked about by the year 2025, which is not too far away, all westernized countries, our militaries were reduced greatly, like by 60 or 70%, and the populations of the countries were reduced to like 70 or 80%. That fits very closely with what the UN Agenda 21 2030 plan is. The WEF, Great Reset, Build Back Better, all this garbage they're trying to push down our throats is playing out before our eyes. So I think it's a good idea for everyone that cares and cares about your family and wants your family to have a future. Go out and fight this. You have to. It's your duty. You have to fight back against it. And one of the ways you need to fight back against it is by knowing your rights. I've tried to stress that in many of my videos. Know your rights so that they can't be taken away from you. So anyway, guys, I highly suggest you go watch that video on ban.video. Go check it out. It's still, at least on their site, it's still free speech over there, so they can talk about all sorts of things that I'm not allowed to talk about here on this platform. But what blew my mind about seeing that on YouTube was, I haven't seen Alex Jones on YouTube in so long. You would see people uploading a while back, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. People would upload his content, and then like 2 or 3 days later, that whole channel would be taken down. I don't know how they're getting away with it, but this company, this YouTube channel called the London Real, is broadcasting live stream Alex Jones videos, and it's great, man. It's great. Everyone should be able to look at all the information and decide what they believe and what they don't. Anytime someone's trying to suppress a certain argument, it automatically draws me to investigate into that argument more and why people are trying to hide that side of things. And that's how you should look at this channel here and the London Real and anybody else that's trying to stand up against the New World Order. So anyway, guys, I don't want to go on and on. I appreciate you tuning in. Let me know what you think. I mean, do you have any battle plans, you know, for lack of a better word? How can we strategically fight back against this before it's too late? Because I think, you know, that's one of the things that I think is really confusing a lot of people. They think, you know, a lot of people think that there's going to be this massive event of SHTF and everyone's going to wake up to it suddenly and they're going to be like, oh my God, all those people were right. But I don't think that's actually going to happen. I don't think there's going to be a point when blue helmets actually come over here and, you know, United States patriots have to fight off the blue helmets. I don't think that's realistic. They've already beaten us from within by using our own system against us. As long as we don't stand up. You know, we're not completely beat. When I said that, I was immediately trying to retract that statement, because we're not completely beaten, but we're being beaten. Where, you know, let's say we're, you know, 8 rounds into a 10-round fight and we haven't won a single round in a long time. Fight back against the New World Order at all costs. The future of humanity depends on it. Appreciate you guys tuning in, as always. I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too. I'm going to go ride this 4-wheeler.